So I've been interested in the sample libraries provided by Orchestral tools for a while, but haven't quite pulled the trigger on any of the paid products yet. And then I found out they have a free library called Layers. So let's check that out. Layers is a chord library, meaning that instead of individual notes playing individual sounds, each note plays a full chord. The library is divided into 4 groups: full orchestra patches, winds, brass, and strings. Then each of those is further divided with major and minor short chords, major and minor long chords, sus4 chords, and then the bass instruments of each of the sections have more traditional chromatic samples that play more like traditional instruments. So they're only 1 octave, but it gives you a little bit more play with those patches. And then each patch is further divided by each octave. You get the different intervals of the chords. And then on top of that, for the full orchestra chords, the harder you hit the note, so the higher the velocity, you start to get other instruments added in when you go from soft to hard note hits. So usually the trumpets and the brassier sounding notes will come through the harder you hit. So this isn't meant to be a full depth review. I just wanted to get the library loaded. I loaded up all the patches except for the sus4 patches, and then I wanted to write a few tunes just to see what I was working with. On a personal note, I do have a hard time writing music using chord-based libraries. I like individual instruments. I'm more of a traditional composer in that I start with a blank sheet of staff paper in Sibelius. I write all my parts out, and then I move into Cubase. So trying to rethink of how I play stuff in or orchestrate as I go was a bit of a challenge for me, but a fun one. The first 2 examples I wrote only use samples from Layers. The first one is mostly long patches, and the second one uses a little more of the short patches, but there's some mixing in both of them. So again, I have a hard time writing just using chords. I needed more melodic instruments, so I set out to try to write an example, or to use all the examples only using free sounds that you can find online. So there's a website called PianoBook.co.uk, which I had actually never heard of, but I was watching a video earlier today and it was mentioned, so I went and checked it out. Some pretty good sounds in there. Again, it's not a whole lot of melodic sounds. I mean, there are, but they're heavy manipulated, but they're basically user submitted. You make a library, you submit it to this site just for public domain use for anybody to grab. Some pretty good sounds. So I did throw those into the third and final example. And then I just couldn't help myself, so I did use the VSL strings in the Contact library that comes with Contact Ultimate. So a bit of a cheat there, but I went with it anyway. And I again used some reverb, and then I put a few effects on the sounds I got from PianoBook, just to kind of help soften some of the hits and to get them to level a little bit more. So hope you enjoy. So hopefully you found this helpful. This was the layer sample library, free of charge, from Orchestral Tools. You can get it on their website. I'll put a link down below. And a few sounds from pianobook.co.uk. I'll also put a link to that down below. Hopefully you enjoyed this. It gives you some insight on whether or not you want to check them out and make some purchases for them in the future. I'm definitely going to check them out myself now that I've played around with their libraries. I like their sounds. Again, it was kind of weird working with chordal libraries, not really my forte, but I do like the sounds. They're usable, and I could definitely see throwing them in some of my other tracks just to kind of fatten some of the sounds up a bit. So until next time, see you later.